Welcome, Mart. This is your first NCS experience,
This is my first time.
and you're still here.
Still here. Got my son and my son-in-law with me. We're having a great time.
Have you have we freaked you out in any way yet?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
I'm hanging in there.
He's being polite. He's being polite. I think you may want to move that to your other lapel. I think I
Okay.
gave you bad information, or maybe you know what? We're supposed to be in opposite chairs. Look at that. They already. It's my fault. There we go.
How about now?
Don't you feel better?
Yeah, I feel how much better.
Okay.
Now you're freaking me out.
I know. Let's do that once more. Very important for audio.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, the first question I want to ask you, it says Mart Green. I assume Mart is short for market. Is that correct?
No, it's just Mart. My parents were very
Just Mart?
creative, so I guess.
Is
they
that
had
true?
fun
It's
thing.
not Martin?
No, it's not Martin.
It
It's
really
Mart.
is Mart.
It's really Mart.
Wow.
So I guess
Well,
a prophetic name.
some of these folks, yeah, you're not kidding. Some of these folks, you mean Green?
Yeah.
That's
Both.
yes. Some of the folks in this room don't know about Hobby Lobby, but I have to tell you, a few years ago I didn't know anything about Hobby Lobby, and to learn that there were very serious Christians in the marketplace with a company that wanted to stand with biblical values and so on and so forth. Frankly, I mean, it's an amazing thing that in a country like the USA, with so many so-called Christians, that we don't have more of this, and that there are just a few that stick out. But your company stuck out, and the more I looked into it, the more I was amazed. So I was thrilled that we could get you here to talk about that, because there are a lot of guys here trying to figure out, how do I negotiate being a believer in the world? What does that mean? So tell us a little bit, first of all, a little bit about your story. How did you get into, first of all, tell us what Hobby Lobby is, for those who don't know, but how did you get into that family business? You know, just give us some background on that.
Good. Yeah, Hobby Lobby is a retailer of arts and craft supplies, similar to a Michael's that some people may have in different places. But my dad is a preacher's kid. All 5 of my aunts and uncles are preachers, married preachers. And Grandma was very disappointed that my dad wasn't a preacher. She prayed for 6. And so my dad always felt second class, really, as a businessman. So that was kind of his experience. But he worked at the Five and Dime, met my mom at the soda fountain. They got married when they were 17 and 19. And then he worked...
Which one was it? It can't be both.
Yeah. And so... You're freaking me out here. So.
I can't, you see, they encourage this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It quenches the spirit, and I apologize, but go ahead.
And so there's a company called TGNY. TGNY was a Five and Dime store, had 1,200 stores that moved our family. That's the reason I live in
Now,
Oklahoma City.
what year was that roughly?
In the early 60s.
So this really began in the early 60s.
Yeah, well, my dad did at TGNY. Then he was working, he got 2 days a month off every other Sunday. So he decided to start Hobby Lobby. And so he had $600. He borrowed $600, and he bought a chopper and $100 worth of frames, wood, and we cut frames, and we glued those. So when I was 9, my brother was 7, we glued frames for 7 cents each and sold them wholesale. So before Hobby Lobby, there was a wholesale division in 70. In 1972, we opened our first Hobby Lobby. Everybody was doing macrame back then, and so that's what we did. Yeah, well, all the other half, all the other half of this group is.
I was
doing
big
macrame.
into string art.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And decoupage.
Yeah, those are all good.
Oh, yeah.
Scrapbooking? You into scrapbooking now?
No.
Okay. Sorry, you're missing it.
Scrapbooking really didn't begin until the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm a 70s kid. Decoupage, macrame, string art, very big on that stuff. Yeah.
So that's good. We need to get you into scrapbooking now. It's not the 90s, so.
So so where was the first store was in Tulsa?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. But you're in Tulsa now, headquarters are in Tulsa?
No, there's headquarters in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
But you're in Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah, Oklahoma City. you got that right.
I got that. Okay. So how did this culture, I mean, this family culture, first of all, you're very much a family business. Talk about that, because I think that itself is interesting. There are not so many of those out there.
Yeah, like I said, that started in our home, and so as kids, we just glued frames. We saw retail. We loved retail, and I have a brother, a sister. We took a cousin in that lived with us, so we all work in the family business, which has its challenges, of course, and it has its great thrills. We have Gen 3 now, that's my kids and my brother's kids, and so they're now starting to join the business. Some in a different aspect. One's a filmmaker, one's joined retail, they're doing different things. But I think one of the things that my dad saw when he started the business, he didn't start the business to be successful, he started the business to be a giver. And the reason he did, he was raised in a Pentecostal denomination, little bitty churches. My grandparents never pastored a church of over 50, and 8 of those were the family. There's 6 siblings and 2, so they're 8 of the 50. So they live in a 1-bedroom home. The 3 girls would get the bedroom, the parents in the living room. My dad would be in the kitchen with his brothers. And so, but he saw my grandmother be what I call a widow's mites giver. And so she didn't argue about 10%, all that stuff. If you gave her anything, though, she paid tithes because she felt like it was God's increase. And so if they gave her food, the Christmas gift, she gave that. But that impacted a little boy who was my dad. And so while he couldn't be a preacher, he could be a giver. And so
in business.
Yeah, in business.
Now, just to just go to the end real briefly, and then to go back. But okay, so those are the humble beginnings. $600, kids gluing frames. Where is the company today? How many stores and how much are you doing per year? What kind of a company are we talking about, for those who don't know?
Yeah, we have 525 stores. We started in Oklahoma.
525 stores.
Yeah, we just did right at $3 billion last year. So
$3 billion.
Yeah. And so there were times along the way that people want you to go public and get faster money, and sometimes that's tempting because you want to go faster. Maybe the competition's growing faster and all that stuff. But really for my dad and for us, it was never really a decision because we always wanted to be givers. So because the business was built on generosity and being just a mechanism for giving, we never were tempted to do that. And so my grandmother's, her testimony of giving has lived through 4 generations now.
This is a big deal. I mean, I think that there is this idea out there. Of course, it's not a biblical idea, it's a wrong idea, but it's a strong idea in the culture that, when it comes to business, you can't be all out there for God. You have to somehow, there's this implication that somehow it's dirty and you got to compromise a little bit. Business is business. You got to give the shareholders, you got to do what you got to do. It sounds to me like if ever there was an example of God blessing, giving him everything in business. I mean, you don't hear too many businessmen talking about wanting to give through business. It's more like wanting to get and, maybe giving something on the back end. But what does that look like in terms of how you run the company? Because I know that you have biblical values, and, people can talk about that. What does that mean in the way you run the company day to day, long term? I mean, how do those values come into the reality of running a huge company?
Yeah, there's lots of different areas. I mean, simple things like closing on Sunday. Again, my dad left the business.
Closing on Sunday?
Closing on Sunday, so...
Stop right there.
All right.
So you're closed on Sundays. Is Chick-fil-A closed on Sundays?
Yes.
Okay, can you think of how many other big companies, maybe you know the answer to this, do you know offhand any other big national companies that are closed on Sundays?
No, Chick-fil-A, that's all I'm aware of.
That's
so that
it?
may be it, yeah.
That's very interesting.
So, yeah. But
so you always actually trust God.
Yeah, we always felt Chick-fil-A was making even a bigger sacrifice because we want to be so good you won't shop on Sunday, but Chick-fil-A can't be so good you don't eat on Sunday. And so, so anyway.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So,
wow.
So.
Incredible. Man. Well, that is a big deal. I just want to underscore that because I think that, again, there's this idea out there that you can't do that. I mean, let's face it. I remember in the 70s, when the old blue, in Connecticut where I grew up, when the blue laws ended and suddenly there was shopping on Sunday. I remember being startled because I was not particularly religious, but I remember thinking, wow, we can shop on Sunday. And what does that mean? But what it does is it introduces kind of this level of noise and static because there was something which, of course, you took for granted about Sundays, that you're just not doing that stuff on Sundays. And suddenly, on Sundays, everybody's going. And so just the fact that you would do that is, I think it is huge. And again, in this day and age, it sends a huge message. It's a powerful thing to trust God, to say, like, no, we believe we're going to make as much money as we need to 6 days of the week by honoring God. And I really do want to congratulate you. They've already applauded, but I want to personally say I think that's just extraordinary. Now, there's a lot in terms of how you treat employees or whatever. Share a little bit of that, of how your biblical values come into that.
Yeah, we have chaplains, 3 chaplains at the corporate office, several that travel around to the stores to make that available to them. We do character first with them. We also try to take care of them over the last 5 years, every year on April 15th. One of the biggest moments for our family is April 15th because we've been able to raise our minimum wage $1 a year to this year it's at $14 an hour, so we're paying our minimum wage. So how do we take care of those people that take care of us? So while we love giving, we love to give to others, and we do a lot of that, we also want to give back to those who have been involved. And so it's been a great blessing for our family and a thrill because we have a lot of single moms, a lot of situations that $1 an hour means a lot to them. And so each year we've been able to do that. So it's fun for our family.
Have there ever been any moments that you've been scared as a company thinking, well, we can't do this or we can't do that or it doesn't look like we're going to make it, that our values are kind of putting us on the edge? How has that been over these years?
There's been different times we thought the business wasn't going to make it. I remember the early 80s, we thought the business was going to fail, and that's kind of when we really said that, this is not our business, it's God's business. And so we see ourselves as not owners of Hobby Lobby, but as stewards of Hobby Lobby, and that's affected our estate planning, everything. So even our children had to sign this last year, a document that if Hobby Lobby ever sells, that 90% of the money will go to ministry, and 10% will be set aside for widows or orphans that we may have in our family. So.
Yeah. Well, I just want to, vocalize what I'm sure a lot of these guys are thinking is that, we need, I talked about this in my breakout session in this book, 7 Men. I mean, we need heroes. We need to know that doing the right thing is the right thing to do. And because we live in a culture where you don't tend to hear that message. So just to know that you guys have kind of hung it out there and trusted God, actually done that and not said, well, we can't, to actually do that, and even to say if we fail, well, then we fail. It's God's company. I mean, that is just tremendous and rare. And as I said, I mentioned Chick-fil-A. It's an extraordinary thing that in US of A, we have so few folks running companies who think this way. And I do think it's partially because, you were talking about your grandmother wanting all her kids to be preachers, because we buy into this false idea. We've talked about this a lot at NCS, that serving God means being a preacher, and you realize that's nonsense. If God calls you to be a preacher, great, but God wants us to be everywhere and in everything, serving Him with our gifts and our life and our joy everywhere, including, obviously, in the marketplace. And to know that you guys are out there doing that and that there is a cost to it, but that you are trusting God, and He has obviously blessed you amazingly. 525 stores, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's over 500, is that right?
Just a little.
That's a lot of stores. But it's tremendous. I also want to highlight a way in which Hobby Lobby, they have been heroes, and I'll probably, I've talked about this a lot. I was not up on the whole idea of religious freedom and all this kind of stuff, but because of my dear friend Chuck Colson, who passed away a year ago, he was always talking about this, talking about the Manhattan Declaration and how Christians will be challenged, that there's a secular orthodoxy rising in America, in many cases government enforced, which is going to challenge Christians on some of our core beliefs. And I happen to know that Hobby Lobby has very, very bravely, heroically stood up against, some of you may know that the HHS mandate, right? If Obamacare is happening, there's this Health and Human Services mandate that companies must buy abortifacient drugs, birth control, whatever, for the employees, for the insurance. And you say, well, wait a minute. What if that goes against my conscience? What if that goes against my values, my religion, whatever? And obviously, anybody who's any kind of serious Catholic says, oh, we can't be paying for contraception. That goes against our, we won't do that. And the government says, well, tough, you're going to do it. Well, that's when you're going to find out who is in this country and the citizens of this country. Do we know what it means to be the church, to be an American citizen? Do we understand religious freedom? Because if we do, it means that we have to say no. And so Chuck Colson heroically has been talking about this and trying to get people to sign the Manhattan Declaration, because this is at the core of what we're facing as a nation. And when I read that Hobby Lobby, your company, was going to be fined, will be fined $1.3 million per day by the government if you do not comply, and you have heroically stood up against that. That is magnificent. Maybe you can share just a little bit about that, but that is a heroic stand, and I just want to applaud you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been quite a process to go through as a family. It's up to 1.3 million. We don't know what the fine would be, so I just want to give a little clarification to that. But yeah, we had to come together at my home at Christmas time with our family because we did not get our injunction. We thought we'd get injunction and all that, and say, do we hang into this or not? What happens if we? And you got wives and all of that, and we went around the room, and some were like Daniel, let's storm the gates, and Shadrach, Meshach, ready to go. Others were like, man, can we do this? Can we do that? Is there any way? And we just, in our conscience, couldn't figure out another way. We just believe that life starts at conception, And I don't care how tall you are. I'm defending your life and your rights. So,
you got to hold on a second. That's a great line. I don't care how tall you are. I'm defending your life. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. So anyway, we got around to my dad, and I wondered what my dad would say because he's the patriarch, and what he says kind of goes. And I thought, if he storms the gates, some of them may feel like, wow, I didn't have enough faith. My dad said, I have enough faith for today. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I have enough faith for today. So we just walk this out day by day. We can't change. So it's easy on that side. We can't change. We believe life starts at conception. So we take it, we have enough faith for today, and we'll see what God does. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I just want to say again that, what's crazy is that in America there are so few folks doing what you all are doing that it makes what you all are doing all the more impressive. And I want you to know that people are looking to you, and there are people in this room making decisions in their lives that they need to know. This is why heroes are important, A, and B, this is why you need to be a hero, whoever you are, because people are looking at you, and it's affecting what they do. And when you see someone stand for the right thing, it just cannot help but inspire you. So in closing, I just want to thank you again, Mart, for standing heroically, for doing the right thing, for being an example to folks that God can use us powerfully in the marketplace, and He's depending on us to serve Him in that place. And what I get from you all is to really trust Him, knowing that He is real. You can't go wrong. Even if you fail, you don't fail. And I think just that kind of faith that we need to hear that more. So I want to say on behalf of the leadership of NCS, thank you for letting us have a few minutes of your very valuable time, because I do think that a lot of men here and who are going to get these tapes they're going to be affected by your example. They're going to look up Hobby Lobby and be keeping their eyes on you and what you're facing in this battle with the government right now. And I know that they and their families are going to shop at Hobby Lobby. So thank you for coming. And Jim Lane is going to come up now.
Good job.
Thank you.